the 12th dynasty pharaohs, outside of the typical reasons, have a very Nubian look about them. For example, if you look at Amenemhet and you look at Senraset and you look at Amenemhet II, you can tell that they look African, but it's not just in a typical Egyptian sense. They actually look more African. The features are more pronounced in a way that is almost typical of the 25th dynasty that everybody always talks about, the Nubian dynasty. And the reason for this is probably because they acknowledge their appearance difference, since Egypt relies so much on incest when you're the king, because it makes all the difference for real. I mean, look at this older version of Amenemhet the Third, very typical of a African king. You can't tell the difference between this guy and any black guy in the world, really. In the sense of, if you look at this statue, what feature does this person have that is not typical of black African appearance? And secondly, what features does he have that you, as a black person, if you're black or if you're looking at black people, you can say black people don't have that? This is why experts, not just normal, it's not me or you or somebody like that, it's experts say this was a Nubian dynasty. Even though ancient Egyptians are black, they represent something closer to like an Ethiopian, which Ethiopians have typical black features, but they also have some features that would be considered strange for Africans. Whereas these people are like pure Negroids of the highest order. If you look at these four pharaohs, you can see that the one in the beginning, Amenemhet the first, has a very typical African look about him. His hair, his nose, his mouth. You can tell that they're not. His nose doesn't protrude as far as the others go. Now, this doesn't mean that the others are not African. You see, Tutankhamun still got a typical African look. It's just different. Ramesses II also has a typical African look, but it's just a little bit different. And then you've got Ramses III, who has been genetically tested and is closer to a West African, which is curious. I mean, people don't like speaking about this part, but it's curious that West African DNA is in Ramesses III, considering that almost all other African DNA that comes from Egypt is typically Sudanese or Ethiopian. There is no reason to find it. This might be one of the first connections between West Africa and Egypt. Now, if they continue to genetically test and they find other people, by the way, Ramses II is related to a bunch of other pharaohs, remember? So his dad and this person's son and these other children, they all would have his same genetics or the same genetic group. So there's a lot of people who would have already qualified there. He was assassinated though. Oh yeah, not to mention his wife, because remember, ancient Egyptians are incestuous. I don't know if I'm a conspiracy theorist or not, but does it not strike anyone as strange that these guys were doing a barrage of DNA tests in Egypt and then all of a sudden they stopped out of nowhere? I don't know. Also, okay, one more conspiracy theory. If it's illegal for someone like Kevin Hart to say that the ancient Egyptians are black, what's it gonna mean if the geneticists find out through genetics that they're black? Whatever law stopped Kevin Hart from saying that they were black, what's it gonna mean for these Egyptologists if DNA tests come back that way? I'm just gonna throw that out there. But if we look at more statues of ancient Egypt, we can tell more African features. And also, I don't know how to put this, but what is it about Egypt that forces other people who are not from Africa to be so involved or think about it so much to the point where they constantly spam or lose their mind. Someone that I've mentioned before is Zahi Hawass. Let's talk about just the appearance of the ancient Egyptians. Remember when he said that the ancient Egyptians are not Negro, but they're dark skinned? But every reconstruction he is involved in, they're never dark skinned. Does he believe anything that he ever says ever? And I always return to this, but for good reason. What picture, what portrait, what people around the world are doubted when they portray themselves, even in the most minor cartoonish fashion? What people are looked at around the world and they go, well, they were just drawing a metaphor of what they look like. And why is it that people who don't even belong in those tribes or clans, how come they can easily distinguish themselves from other people? But then as soon as you go to Egypt, that disappears. Also, I want to be really clear about something. The DNA evidence is not all in. The DNA evidence is not fully explored. Tutankhamun's DNA was not 100% revealed. A lot of stuff that is missing in the history of Egypt is still missing. So, this idea that we're done and we don't need to go any further is a waste of time. The idea that it's just like pressing on a button that has already been closed is a lie. Egypt belongs to Africa, and it always will, no matter what the ancient Egyptians look like. And the desperation for other people from other places to associate themselves with the original Egyptians is simply pathetic. I wonder if I'm the only person that it strikes as strange that they keep talking about how, we're all the same, it doesn't matter, all that other stuff. But they're the first to say, stop looking at Egypt, stop associating yourself with Egypt if you're from Africa, even though Egypt is in the continent of Africa. And secondly, I hate that they obsess so much over the mixed raceness of ancient Egyptians. But then the second you say, okay, they're mixed race, that means Africans are part of that mix. Then they go, wait, that's not what we meant. And so it's quite obvious what's happening, which a lot of these are stalling tactics. We're going to be screwed over by the end. I can feel, I'm sure most people can feel it. That's probably why a lot of these geneticists are saying that, are accusing some of these geneticists of wanting the ancient Egyptians to be white. Isn't that a strange claim by another geneticist to another one, where they say these people are suffering from wanting the other Egyptians to be white?